Hello, everybody. Welcome to our viewers and our listeners. This is the show Coaches Unleashed, the show for everyday people that are interested to understand a bit more about coaching. So today I'm really happy to be able to welcome a coachee friend of mine, Katrina Court. Katrina is an ICF-certified coach, a Mama Rising Facilitator, and a Matrescence and maternal mental well-being champion. Welcome, Katrina.
Hello, thank you for having me.
It's great for you to be here. And as I'm reading out your bio, or part of your bio, Katrina, the first thing that strikes me is this incredible term, matrescence. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Is that how you pronounce it?
Matrescence.
Matrescence. There we go. Would you be able to tell us a little bit more about what this means, matrescence?
Absolutely. So matrescence is the transition that a woman goes through when she becomes a mum. So a little bit like adolescence captures that transition from childhood into adulthood. The term matrescence captures all of the changes that a woman goes through when she becomes a mother. So whether that be the physical changes, hormonal changes to her emotions, the way that she views the world, the way that she's seen by the world. A lot of women will go through financial changes when they become mothers, changes in their career. So it really is, there's a lot packed into that one word, but it just gives, I guess, validation to the enormity of what a woman goes through when she makes that transition.
That's incredible. It sounds like it's quite an underused word, though. I have not come across that word before.
It is. So it was actually coined in the 1970s, believe it or not, by an anthropologist who came up with the word doula. And whilst doula is wildly used now in kind of common language when we're referring to, the support that a woman can get while she is pregnant, matrescence just seemed to get lost in the textbook. But it is definitely getting a revival, which is great, and it's something that I'm very passionate about, because it does, as I said, it just validates, and it provides a language that otherwise it's very difficult to describe all of those feelings that you go through when you make that huge transition. And yeah, it's a word that I just want to shout from the rooftops.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that it would be really useful for a lot of women and men out there to understand a bit more about this faith. I love how you compare it to sort of adolescence as well. So there's actually it's a phase of one's life. So tell me a little bit more. What type of people is it that you support then, Katrina?
So I work with women who are typically in the early years of their matrescence and who really want to do motherhood differently. So they believe that being an amazing mum, shouldn't have to mean fully surrendering, their well-being, their ambition, their entire sense of selves, but they feel stuck. And they're now ready to, I guess, say no more to a version of motherhood where they feel frustrated and where they feel depleted, and they want to reimagine something that is much more in line with who they are, their own values, their own idea of what being a mother means to them. So that's the type of woman I work with, and just being able to support them, whilst they navigate this very challenging time in a woman's life. Those first few years of motherhood are incredibly intense. So being able to be that support whilst they're finding their ways. I feel really privileged to be able to do that.
Oh, okay. And that's really interesting. So they reach out to you feeling that they could do this, you know, differently, and all these expectations that society has been putting on them, they feel that doesn't quite fit them, and they feel that maybe they should be feeling something they're not quite feeling, and they want to really experience it in a different, or reimagine it even in a different way. So when they actually come to you, these women, what are the sort of the common phrases that they use, or the common problems that they reach out to you with?
Yeah, I mean, I think, whilst matrescence is universal, every woman's journey is very unique, but there are certain things, certain feelings, certain frustrations that come up time and time again. So things like feeling overwhelmed, things like feeling that whatever they're doing, it just doesn't seem to be enough. Feeling like they sometimes are, living kind of a life where they feel like they're just surviving, they're going through the motions rather than feeling that they are, fulfilled and they're actually thriving. Feeling depleted, quite often, whether that's, mentally or physically or both. And feeling frustrated, I think that comes up a lot, is that, that these are women who they're giving everything to their family, and sometimes as well having a career on top, and so they feel like they've got nothing left for themselves at the end of the day. So they're just some of the common ones. Guilt as well, that's a big one. Feeling guilty all the time.
And what is it that they feel guilty about?
Guilty of not doing enough, even though they are at capacity. Guilty of feeling like they should be doing things in a different way. Guilty of the way that they feel. Guilty of, having emotions like anger or resentment. Feeling ambivalent even about motherhood, which is just so normal. But kind of going back to what you said earlier, the societal expectations of, and what we see particularly through social media, where we see everything through this filter, they're under a lot of pressure. It's not a surprise that they feel this way.
Yes. As you're talking about this, something's coming up for me, and I wonder, does the equivalence exist for men, like matrescence or something like that? Does that exist?
Yeah, so it is a term. I mean, matrescence, as I said, is only just almost kind of getting that resurgence. So matrescence is kind of, even lesser known. But there are studies that show that, the father figure, they go through changes too, and it's not just the experience of the mother. It will be very different, but support is out there as well, and there are dedicated supporters out there that will support dads, whether that's through mental health struggles when they become a father, or even just being able to support their partner through it as well. So yeah. I think there's a lot of education to be done around support for dads as well. So I'm hoping that someone else can pick up that particular fight, but yeah, it definitely does exist, and it's definitely needed.
Yeah. And so, Katrina, you being a woman and a mother, I'd like to know more about how your personal journey has impacted the way that you got into, doing this matrescence coaching yourself, and being an ICF-certified coach and Mama Rising Facilitator. Also, that term Mama Rising is really intriguing. And so I'd love to know more about your personal journey, what this means to you, and also a bit about this Mama Rising as well. That'd be great.
Of course. Well, I think it's safe to say that I wouldn't be here doing what I do if it wasn't through my own personal struggles. My own matrescence was, I found that deeply challenging. I kind of struggled from day one with feeding, and it was almost felt as if I entered motherhood already on the back foot. And I just felt like I wasn't cut out for it. I was kind of expecting this maternal instinct that everyone kind of tells you about to kick in, and it just never really did. And so I just kind of just was waiting for this to happen. It didn't. I just kind of kept putting one foot in front of the other, just carrying on, thinking, oh, at some point it will all click. And it didn't really. I really struggled for the first, I would say, 2 years of my motherhood. I thought maybe going back to work might help, kind of bring back some of that kind of old sense of self, sense of identity. And it was about, well, it was just around my daughter's second birthday, I just completely fell apart. I was burnt out from, trying to be everything, do everything. And it was really clear that I needed some help. So I did. I got the help that I needed. I decided that I would leave a 15-year career in communications, which is what I did before that. Took some time out to really just reflect on what I wanted to do. Went through coaching myself. And that's kind of what led me then to coaching first, retraining to become a transformational coach. And then through that, and as I started to, I think, explore and unpack my own matrescence journey, the two just came together. And I thought, well, who do I really want to serve? And the answer was, I want to be the support to mums that I felt that I didn't have at the time. So that I guess that's kind of how I came to be a coach. And then you also asked about Mama Rising. So Mama Rising is a specific type of training. It's an ICF-certified training, but it is designed to support women through matrescence. It's devised by one of the leading voices and educators in matrescence, a wonderful woman called Amy Taylor-Kabaz, and some of her own kind of programs really helped me when I was going through kind of learning and understanding more about matrescence. So that is, I am now a qualified Mama Rising facilitator, and it just means that I have the tools, the language, the frameworks to be able to really hold a woman through as she starts to unpack. So all of my coaching is through the lens of matrescence. I think until we can understand how we've got here and why we feel this way, it's really difficult to move forward, which is why a lot of, at the point of coming or kind of, booking a discovery call with me or something, a lot of women are like, they've started to understand that something isn't quite right. And they really want to move forward, but they're finding it hard to do that alone because, they haven't unpacked, what's going on and really understood, why they're feeling this way. A lot of the time they blame themselves, and I can totally relate to that because that's exactly what I did. I think it must be me. I must just be doing something wrong. But there's a lot going on.
So it sounds like a journey, and it sounds like finally when they figure out that they actually need the help of a professional and they find you, then the real sort of, journey can begin to reimagining this new role in their life.
Yeah.
And how is it, Katrina, that somebody can, how do these women find you?
Well, hopefully some more women might find me if you're listening to this. But I have a presence on Instagram.
Mm.
I am also part of a couple of networks that are designed to support mums in lots of different ways. One of those being careering into motherhood. So a lot of my clients find me through that. So that's kind of been a great community to be a part of. And the other way that people can work with me is also I do some work with corporates, so with organizations as well. So purpose-driven organizations that want to retain, value, support their female talent as they come back from parental leave in particular. So I partner with organizations to help them either through one-to-one coaching with these women or group programs, or I'm about to deliver a workshop in a couple of weeks, to a kind of a wider group of people, which is all about understanding how matrescence, how we can support women through going through matrescence in the workplace. So lots of different ways.
Who's this workshop that you're talking about to support women through matrescence? Who is that for? Is it also for managers, like male managers, or is it for women, or for both?
I would say it's for everybody.
Okay.
But so this one in particular is for managers, and it's really important because particularly if you're a line manager, a lot of the time it's not necessarily knowing what the best thing to do is. It's not because they're unsympathetic or they don't want to be a support, but they don't really know how, or they're afraid of saying or doing the wrong thing. There's so much so much fear, I guess, around women, maternity, returning to work. So, just having that understanding of, this is what these women might be experiencing. And these are some ways that you can help them. These are some conversations that you can start. I think a lot of it is about, just starting conversations, making it normal to talk about sleep deprivation. You return back to work and, because it's been 6, 9, 12 months since you've had your baby, everyone kind of assumes that the sleep thing is no longer an issue. But and I remember, you're going into work and, you've maybe had like 4 or 5 hours sleep if you're lucky, not necessarily always in the same stretch. And you're just trying to perform as you were before. So just normalizing conversations and that in itself can just be a really big support to women going through this.
Yeah, now as you say that, it makes me it reminds me of when I went back to with my second child. With my first child, I went back to work quite quickly. I think he was 4 months old when I went back to work. But with my second child, my daughter, I took longer. I took 3 years, also because I the organization I was working for was going through a mega sort of restructuring and merger at the time. So I literally left the workforce for a couple of years and really took advantage of my maternity leave. And I have to say, absolutely enjoyed it. But I did go back to work when she was 3 years old, and she still was not sleeping through the night. So typically she'd be waking up around 11 p.m. after a couple of hours that I'd put her down, which is, exactly the time that I was getting ready to go to sleep. And then she'd wake up again a couple of times during the night. So I didn't really get a good night, like, solid hours, sort of, of more than 5 hours of sleep per night. And I'm a sleeper. I mean, I need my sleep. And so every time I would travel, go abroad for one of the off-site meetings, I was so happy because at least I got to sleep that night, straight, 8 straight hours. It was bliss. It was bliss.
Yeah. It's a big one. But again, I think it goes back, doesn't it, to kind of the expectations that we have about what it means to be a mother, and the generalization I think that we can often give to motherhood, at all stages, not just in those early years, where there seems to be this kind of like one size fits all ideal, and it's really not like that. It's really not. But it's difficult to recognize that, I think, as the mother, and it's equally as difficult to recognize that if you're on the outside, and then for being able to nuance the support that a particular mother might need.
Yeah. Also, because I mean, I love what you said about normalizing it by actually speaking about it, because some people are so scared to say or do the wrong thing. And also, not everybody will be a parent out there that is leading people. However, it's such a personal experience that it's difficult sometimes for people to understand how other parents are going through a difficult patch or a hard time, because maybe their child was a sleeper whilst the people they're leading, that their child isn't. And if you haven't had that experience yourself, I find that sometimes leaders can be quite judgy, saying, well, I've got 3 kids and I made it, so you can make it as well.
Yeah.
And so it can become quite judgmental. And I think just being able to speak about it and normalize it and creating a supportive environment where people can share their own personal experiences and learn and grow from each other would indeed be a great benefit. And I'm sure will also help, the culture in terms of you called it a purpose-driven organization.
Yeah.
And I'm also curious to understand, what does that mean for you, purpose-driven organization?
I think it just means that, organizations who care about the well-being of their employees, in the same way that they do about their customers or the planet or the world, so, just, I guess, just understanding that, you are working with humans, with human emotions. And so often, we hear the term, people can bring their whole selves to work thrown around quite flippantly. But, when it's kind of, the reality of, a woman who is, sleep deprived, desperately trying to prove that she can still do her job, giving her that support is what shows that that she can bring her whole self to work. So and the statistics are shocking. I mean, I'm not sure what they are kind of globally, but I mean, here in the UK, it's around 20% of women that leave the workforce completely just because, they find it unsustainable. And around 1 in 10 have a mental health illness within the first 2 years of returning to work, which is really sad. Because a lot of this, they're just not getting you're not getting any support. They're just expected to return and kind of bounce back. It's a big gap. And big gap for support.
I think you mentioned this before in one of our previous conversations, how women are not meant to do this alone. I mean, we are not wired to do this alone, right?
No. If we go back, and I think there's obviously a lot of changes that have happened over, kind of in modern day motherhood is intense, because a lot of the time you are alone. You don't have that village. Everyone talks about, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, where is the village? So it's most women don't have that. Or they have to go out and find their village, and that that's putting the pressure then back on the mother. It's just one more thing that these moms have to do. I better go and find my village. So it is a lot, and we're not meant to do it alone. And I think a lot of a lot of additional pressure comes from that belief that we should be doing this, and then if I ask for help, it means that I'm not coping. If I ask for help, it means that I'm not a good enough mother. So again, kind of normalizing reaching out for support and for help, and that it doesn't mean that you're not an amazing mom, or it doesn't mean that you're failing. It just means that you deserve the support, and that's another thing that that I do with all of my clients. It's once we've worked through the barriers and the beliefs that might be keeping them trapped in this kind of version of motherhood that's leaving them feeling so frustrated and so depleted. But one thing that we then do is we work on, okay, what is going to be your toolbox moving forward? Because as and you've got slightly older children than I am, this is ongoing. It's a hard gig, and there are new challenges with each phase of motherhood. As your kids grow, the challenges just get different. So having that toolbox and really being clear on what you need in your support, your support network as well, to allow you to be able to kind of then go ahead and like thrive, rather than feeling that you're just surviving.
Yeah, I like that. So you give them also sort of practical tools that they can use and bring that awareness. So what does a typical coaching journey look like, the type of journeys that you offer? How long does it last? How long are the sessions? What does that look like?
So typically women will work with me for anything between 3 to 4 months. And that's kind of a typical. There are some women that have worked with me longer, but typically that's around kind of 3 to 4 months. I say that we kind of work on like 3 levels. So a little bit of what I've touched on before. So firstly, about really honoring their matrescence. So validating what they've been through, unpacking what are the areas within their life that they feel have changed the most, which ones do they want to make a change in, because change isn't always all bad. So it's kind of really understanding that, and I think the second thing is then about unpacking all of the social expectations, the beliefs that they've carried into motherhood, whether that's generational or whether that's just societal in general. And by doing those 2 things, it creates a bit of distance between, what the woman is feeling, and putting everything on her, feeling that she is failing and doing something wrong, and getting that understanding about, okay, well, actually, there are some things that are outside of my control, and this is why I'm feeling that this way. And that's really validating, allows them to treat themselves with much more compassion, kindness, but also interestingly, it gives a bit of power back. A lot of times, women can feel helpless in this kind of version that they found themselves in. And then the third thing is then where we work kind of on the individual level. So that is really about values, and that's at the foundation of creating a version of motherhood that feels that is tailor-made for you. It starts with being really clear what you want.
I love that. Creating a version of motherhood that is tailored to you, as opposed to this Instagram perfect idea of motherhood that you need to try to fit into.
And that's where the magic happens. That's when the women really start to then come into their own, and create something that works for them. So that's values, that's boundaries, that's identifying their strengths. A lot of the time, their confidence has been knocked. So really kind of like rebuilding what is great about them, and carrying that into the kind of this new role. So yeah, I hope that's answered your question. I kind of forgot what the original question was.
Yes, the original question was how, you know, the sort of the typical coaching journey, what it would look like. So I think you answered it very well. And
right. And the one thing I would add is that I also offer slightly more tailored packages or programs, should I say, to women who are just returning to work, so who really want to focus on that transition back into the workplace. And a lot of it is, you know, we cover a lot of the same things, but you know, we might get a little bit laser focused on that return and making that transition feel seamless and sustainable as well.
Yes, so you're anticipating what is going to be a transition and providing that support earlier on, as opposed to waiting for them to feel that overwhelm. So that makes sense. I mean, I wish all companies could offer that as a benefit to mothers, you know, being reintegrated back into the workplace after becoming a mother. That would be, you know, I think an ideal world.
Yeah, I wish I had it.
Yeah, and I wish I had it too. I'm sure that you know, if we were to ask mothers out there, a lot of them wish that they had it, because I think it just accelerates the process and normalizes it as well, and makes you feel less alone. Yeah,
absolutely. And you know, there's a benefit to the organization as well, you know, when it comes to retaining, you know, women in the workplace. I mean, you know, the cost of recruitment, I think the last kind of stat that I saw was something like £20,000, sort of like, you know, when you take into consideration everything, all the hours and recruitment costs and then the training up. So so it's a benefit to you know, to employers as well, not just to the women themselves.
That's incredible work that you're doing, Katrina. And I'm just keeping lookout for the time, and I think we're coming close to our 30-minute cutoff. And yeah, I mean, I really wanted to thank you so much for coming on the show today and for sharing your experience and the work that you do. And I hope that even if there's just one person out there that's listening to this that will find this helpful, then this will have been you know, worthwhile for us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely chatting to you, and I completely agree. I think I very much kind of went into this with that mentality, you know, if I can just support one woman to feel differently to the way that I did, then I'll be happy. So and that's kind of, it's just the ripple effect that has. So yeah, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And I will, as usual, put all the details on the description of the video and the audio. So if anybody would like to reach out to Katrina or to myself, please do so. And I think it's come the time to say goodbye, Katrina, to our viewers and to our listeners. And so thank you, everybody, for listening and watching, and see you for the next episode.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.